Brilliant.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Cam. Thanks, Jane. So, Cam, I'll let you take over and introduce and crack on from there, and then I'll jump in if I've got any thoughts. But I'll let Cam largely run it. All right, over to you, Cam.
Cool. Hi, Jane. Thank you very much for your time today.
No worries.
So Tim and I are working on our master's project, and we've homing in onto the apprenticeship schemes, and because it's in the news a lot recently, and we know that there is definitely a skills gaps in the north. We've been talking to different people in Auto Trader as well as in BAE Systems and another company called Cargill Holloway, a solicitor firm. We all recognize there are not enough people for these firms to be recruited to build a talent pipeline. So what we're trying to do here is put a thesis together, put some hypotheses together to figure out what how companies can really utilize apprenticeship schemes. What do they need to watch out for? What do they need to be aware of for the pitfalls? How it might affect the organization's HR management strategies or policies to get the best out of the program, how to look after the people that comes in from school and how to bring them into employment. And then finally, how to measure performance for each organization. So some companies might think the success of an apprenticeship scheme would be based on the productivity of the individual. Some might think it's the talent pipeline that it builds for the local community and for the local economy. So I'm trying to understand a bit more about how you see it and how it applies to Auto Trader. The interview, or this meeting itself is quite fluid, and we want to make it two-way communication. So if there's anything that we're not making sense or I'm not making sense, please, ask. Please do tell us. And if you've got anything you want to jump in to say, please feel free to do that as well. So shall we start?
Yeah.
Any questions so far?
No, sounds pretty straightforward.
Okay, cool. Can you tell us a bit of background about yourself? I know that you're a recruiter for Auto Trader. How have you been involved with the apprenticeship scheme?
So Auto Trader, my role is to primarily look after products and technology and their recruitment, and that covers all roles. So primarily Java developers, but right the way through to operations engineers. And I've recruited for lots of different organisations, different skill sets. It's been a while since I've recruited before coming here. And the first thing that I noticed was that the kind of people that I'm recruiting for are in massive demand, mainly Java developers, because lots of organisations are looking for them. There's an absolute shortage in the industry. I've done quite a bit of work with an organisation called Manchester Digital. Have you heard of? I'm sure you've heard of them before.
Yeah.
And we've partnered with them on many different things, from their skills conference that we have in February, through to we sponsored meetups, etc. We've built a relationship with a couple of the ladies that work there, and we've stayed quite close, just in conversation about things that are happening in the industry. And they kind of Katie talked about the fact that she wanted to do something about the problem when it came to the skills shortage. And talked about this idea of an apprentice scheme, which I know Alison was really keen to get involved in, and I was certainly interested. A meeting took place between Katie and Alison asked me to get involved, and it's kind of started there. And then we started to put other people in from different parts of the business to help construct the programme, kind of to where we are now, which is our apprentices starting with us on the 26th of September. So we haven't had massive timescales to pull this together. In true Auto Trader style, and we don't sit around for ages talking about things and give ourselves lots of time to do it. And these conversations only started a number of months ago. And ideally, when you're looking to bring apprentices into the business, we would have started something like this traditionally, kind of the back end of last year, at the beginning of this year. So yeah, that's kind of where we are now.
Okay, and Alison, is that Alison Ross?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And with your background in recruitment, have you noticed that you need to do anything different when you recruit the apprentices?
Yeah, absolutely. So we held an assessment day with Manchester Digital, in which a number of the other employers were involved in, and you have to really kind of strip it back, because what you're looking for in a an experienced developer, for example, is very different than what you can expect to see from an apprentice. So you really have to look at the tasks that you kind of have in place, and just doing one short interview, you'll never get to see what you need from the apprentices. So we did a number of different things. I put together group exercises, an interview as well, to give us the opportunity to see the apprentices interact with each other, but also try and make them feel a little bit more relaxed, because they don't have work experience in that sense. They feel very, very nervous in an interview. They've not done that many, if any, before. So you really have to strip it back and realistically what you're going to get from the apprentices.
Mm. And do you think after the recruitment of the apprentices, Autotrader, or have you noticed any difference in terms of what the organization need to do to really get the best out of the apprentices themselves, to make the program really work for the company?
Yeah, there's been a lot of consideration in the construction of the apprentice program, because whilst we're looking people in to this scheme to eventually become developers, there's so much on the soft skills side of things that you have to consider. You really have to take it back a step. We've thought about our environment here at Autotrader. It's very, very relaxed. And somebody without that work experience may come into this environment and think that it's okay to say whatever they want, kind of act as you maybe would in college. And it's about teaching people about being professional in a relaxed environment such as this. And so we've done a lot of work around communication, collaboration, just generally, what's okay in an environment, in addition to obviously all the technical skills that we want to teach them.
Mm. And with the way you guys are recruiting apprenticeships, with the workshops and different interviews and meetings, what do you think are the most important aspects of the individual and as a group, how it kind of fit back into Autotrader itself? So as an individual, it might be their attitude, how they come across, how they carry themselves. And as a group for Autotrader, could you be looking at, I don't know, different social demographics to bring in different ideas, different gender diversity, that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
So we here at Autotrader, we don't have kind of like a tick list or a certain kind of person that we're looking to recruit when it comes to just kind of like regular BAU recruitment. So I mean, I've worked at organisations before where candidates will only be considered if they've been to a certain university and a certain college and have a certain level of degree.
Yeah.
What's really refreshing about Autotrader is that we don't have those kind of requirements around recruitment. Certainly in products and technology, there's I personally find there's a really kind of refreshing view to the fact that people can self-taught. People can come to us with, they don't have to have a first in computer science, and that's fantastic. And I feel that has translated to the apprenticeship program. So when we actually held the assessment day, we had a rather large group of apprentices, and it was a really diverse group. It was fantastic, and you had the stereotypical developers there that kind of want to sit in the corner and code and maybe not interact with as many people. But then we had lots of other different kind of apprentices there as well. And what we didn't just look for were the raw technical skills, because some people naturally are very good at coding, etc. But there needs to be more than that. We don't work in a massive organisation here at Autotrader. It's a very collaborative organisation. and there's lots of different ways in which we can help people develop. And we need diversity in certainly in products and tech. We need different groups of people. So when we were assessing the apprentices, it wasn't just on, are they very, very good at coding? You know, we did see some apprentices that looked strong in that sense, but their attitude and maybe their approach felt quite alien to us, and we didn't just want to go with, but technically, if it's validated for 2 years, there's got to be more to it than that.
And could you tell me why diversity is important in your take of it, in your world? Why is it so important?
I think there's many different benefits to diversity, a diverse work environment. There's different, you know, schools of thinking. There's different ways of doing things. There's obviously, you know, breaking down the barriers that I think exist. I think in certain areas of technology. I think it's just generally a very good thing to have a diverse group of people, because you don't get the same group of people doing the same things. You've got healthy challenge. You've got you know, a kind of a more of a varied kind of group of individuals coming together. So it's, I don't think I'm not probably answering your question very well here. I've got all the words, but they're not necessarily coming out in the right way.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Because of the way you guys recruit, you're picking out the best people that fits your organization in terms of attitude and capability. Do you guys ever get concerned about having too many of the same people because you have plugged them all out that are very, you know, that suits the organization? Do you ever think about how that might actually narrow itself down and take away the diversity that you were originally looking for?
What? Sorry, just is that because we feel that we're concentrating on the values, on the kind of the people kind of side of it?
Not the value of the individual, but the capability, the attitude, how they fit into the organization works very well for AutoTrader. So do you guys consider that you might have all of the very similar type of people working for AutoTrader because of that recruitment process? And then does that become narrow, you know, does that become narrowing of your diversity that you were originally going for? All the good people think alike?
I think that so in terms of the regular, BAU recruitment process, we have lots of different steps, and we have quite a collaborative approach to hiring, in the sense that lots of different people at different levels are involved in the recruitment process. And because I coordinate all of that recruitment activity, so I kind of ensure that when, say for example, I have a candidate coming in and the first session they do is a pairing session, I always look at who they're pairing with. So I try not to have two similar kind of people in those sessions. I think very carefully about who's involved in those assessments, because naturally there are groups of people that think and act in a similar way, but I think that what you need to ensure is that in a recruitment process that you have different sessions that allow us to understand more about the candidate in those situations and different individuals, so you never have the same groups of people assessing. And I have a pool of probably around about 30 people that I call on to get involved in development assessment. So and we did the same with the apprentices as well. I got a group of people involved, all that have different strengths in different areas. And I do see on a regular basis really healthy challenge when it comes to making a decision over candidates. So I feel that if anything, we are widening the kinds of people that we have in the organisation, because we don't just test for the technical, we test for their fit on so we have 5 company values. You know, we test them against those values and see whether or not we're right for them and they're right for us.
Okay, cool. With talking about the right fit, then how many of, well, I guess it's a new apprenticeship program, how many of these people do you think will see through the entire training program?
That's a good one. So yeah, you always expect to have some dropout. So we've got 4 apprentices that are joining us via the Manchester Digital Programme, which is 2 years, and we have Chloe who's joining us on the MMU apprenticeship programme, and she's been with us for 4 years, and she receives she gets the degree at the end of it. I would think that maybe somebody in a 4-year programme would be more likely to drop out than somebody on a 2-year, because it's such a long time and the market is so competitive that if people see on LinkedIn she's working for Auto Trader, she's 2 years, she's probably going to get,
coached and headhunted.
And do you think there's a risk that we'll find that people will actually use the apprenticeship at Auto Trader just to start their career, that actually ends up taking them into another Manchester business or a London business or anyway?
Definitely, I think that's a risk that we run, especially given the fact that Auto Trader is seen as very well thought of in the industry, not just for developers but for all of our people. So I know that on a daily, weekly basis, my colleagues are being contacted about opportunities elsewhere, and we do have a very high technical benchmark. So what I tend to find is when I'm recruiting developers, we could invite, and this isn't across all businesses, but there are certain organisations where somebody will come in to see us for a senior developer, and at our level, they're more the level below, because we do have such a high technical benchmark. So I think naturally what will happen is when these apprentices have probably done the first 12 months with us, they will be tapped up by other organisations, because they know that so we have pretty much wrote the Manchester Digital Apprenticeship Programme. So knowing that our developers put this programme together will make our apprentices very attractive to the rest of the market.
I've got 2 questions off the back of that. The first one is, if your apprentices do leave, do you think they will carry on with the apprenticeship programme at the other company if they were to participate in the same thing? And
yes, the other organisation is active in the Manchester Digital Apprenticeship Programme, then there shouldn't be a reason why they can't go and work with them. What Katie's been very keen on is that all the employers within the apprenticeship programme stay very close to each other. We've got a number of boot camps running over the next 2 years, in which the cohort of apprentices will come together and work on, and we're very keen to have a certain level of consistency running throughout the apprentices' experience over the next couple of years, because whilst every organisation operates differently and what they do on a day-to-day basis is up to them, we want to ensure they receive the best support that they can have in the organisation. And we don't want to stop people. If people feel there's an opportunity that's they're suited to elsewhere, then that's entirely up to them. But what we do, and this isn't just for apprentices, we work really hard as an organisation to ensure that people here. And that's not just about remuneration, because we know that through surveys, remuneration isn't the top thing that people look for. And when they're searching for a new job, it's about the environment, it's about the culture, it's about the opportunities to develop, to kind of, effectively manage their own destiny in that sense in the workplace. And that applies to the apprentices. We need to make sure that we give them really high level of support. We need to make sure that they are given everything they need in order to succeed. But at the same time, we're going to be really, really important to what we need in order to programs. I'm sure they will be hunted, but that's
So Tim's always told me about how good it is to work at Auto Trader, especially the freedom he has to wear triple denims.
All that.
I always find that really amazing.
The diversity is it goes across everything. It's like wear what you want. Just it's fine.
The second question I had about the apprentices who might leave is, how does that affect the Auto Traders apprenticeship program? How do you guys see that as a failure in the program itself, or it's already anticipated? So you just carry on and do the same thing again next year?
I think that if we're in that situation, we'd be looking to find out why. With everything in Auto Trader, we always do things like retros, etc. And retros will be held throughout the course of the program, regardless of people leaving or not. But I think in that situation, we need to have a look and see if there's anything that we've done that's meant that person has left because they don't feel supported or something's gone wrong. I think that would be quite arrogant of us not to do something like that. But at the same time, be realistic and know that it's a very, very competitive market. And we know, or I know, what other organisations are offering people in terms of money. So yeah, I think there's two sides to it.
And at the other end of the equation, do we see those apprentices staying with us for life? Like we've spoken to BAE, and BAE, 90% of their apprentices are still there in 10 years' time. Do you think that is the software engineer career?
I think that we, in an ideal world, they definitely stay with us. I don't necessarily think there's jobs for life anymore. When I started working, I went to BA at 18 and spent 9 years with them. I thought I'd be with them forever. But I think that the landscape has changed in that sense. So, I would certainly hope that they would stay with us for at least a good few years after that apprenticeship program is finished, because there's just so much more for them to learn. And so much more for them to do, and it doesn't end there. And that's still, they'll be like, what, early 20s at that point? There's still so much for them to develop, not just in the technical sense, but in terms of themselves as individuals. But, I think there'll be people that will want to stay with us forever, and those people are comfortable. But in the sense of, like you say, software development, would that mean that you would always stay with the same business? Would you maybe not go on and stretch yourself, go to a completely different environment and kind of, work that? I don't know.
I'm just wondering if there's some advantages, like some of the people we've brought in, software engineers who are more experienced. Actually, the experience of doing lots of different technologies in lots of different companies is something that's valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because we've had developers leave us and come back to us in the past 12 months because they wanted to go out and they wanted to experience things, which is absolutely fantastic. Go and do that. We're not saying they're going to accept everybody that leaves when they come back, but I think there's definite advantages of having different work experience, different industries. I've worked in organisations that are very hierarchical, global organisations through to organisations such as Auto Trader, and all of those experiences have contributed to kind of what I do now. So I don't think it'd be a bad thing. I think if anything, apprentices would need to go and work at other places in the future, because not every organisation is like Auto Trader. I think sometimes it can maybe give a slightly unrealistic view of what the world is like, because not every organisation is as relaxed as this, as gives people the autonomy to kind of own their kind of work day in that sense. And I think that variety would help them grow as individuals as well. So.
Sorry, Cam, you go.
I was going to ask, you talked about the people leaving and coming back. I was wondering, have you ever considered, or do you at the moment recruit apprentices from inside a company?
So from within our own organisation.
Like take someone on the fourth floor and make them a brilliant software engineer.
So with the apprentice levy, that's one of the things that we are going to be thinking about for the future, because obviously we are an organisation that will be actively contributing towards our salary bill. But that is something that we should be thinking about for the future. It's like, well, how do we make use of this scheme, and how do we help people that are in non-technical roles at the moment that want to? So I definitely, it's not something we do at the moment, but I definitely think it's something we should be doing in the future.
Okay.
Do you have some kind of coding schools for people, like anyone in the business? Is that something?
So there's, so I know that one of the developers has set up, Alec has set up like a kind of a workshop for people that don't practice Java at the moment that want to, but there certainly are a lot of the tech scene in Manchester is really lively, and there's lots of different things that you can go to. There's Mad Lab in the Northern Quarter, and I think they've been holding workshops for people that want to start pairing. So we try and get involved and try and sponsor different things, because it's really important that the ecosystem in Manchester, the tech system in Manchester is certainly, you know, supported by organisations that do that, opening the doors to people that wouldn't necessarily go into, say, a developer type role. So again, helps with that kind of piece as well.
And then on the that Manchester digital scene, your role in that wider kind of community, how are the apprentices going to be introduced to that community? Do they already know about it? Will they get support from it? How will that work?
Yeah, so the cohort of apprentices across the businesses that are involved in the Manchester Digital Scheme, we really want them to go into other businesses as well. So we're kind of not there at the moment in terms of what that's going to look like in detail, but we want them to be able to kind of maybe do, whether or not it's a rotation or something, even if it's an experienced day, so they can go in and see what other organisations are like. But we also want to, like you say, introduce them to the tech scene in Manchester, because it's not just about what happens in Auto Trader. You know, there's a lot of people in the business that are really passionate about contributing towards a really strong tech scene in the Northwest, and it's about that giving back. So, you know, we have a large number of developers that are involved in things like Code Club, where they go to primary schools and help teachers and students with coding. And I think it's about introducing the apprentices to that kind of that environment where, you know, it's not just about maybe kind of using open source for your code, it's about kind of actively being involved in the community. So with Manchester Digital hold a skills festival in February, and we were speaking to Casey about it last week. I was like, well, why don't we get all the apprentices to maybe present something or talk about what they've done so far at that? So they're getting used to being active, positive contributors to the tech scene. And we've got some female developers in the apprentice group as well. And I think that's sometimes what the scene lacks, is that it's mainly just men that are involved in these things. And I think we need to kind of really kind of ensure that, you know, we kind of move away from that, and by, you know, bringing in, you know, a diverse group of apprentices, we're kind of hopefully beginning to challenge the kind of the stereotypical kind of view of what a developer should be and should look like.
I'm just going to change the topic slightly. Want to talk about the performance aspects of the apprenticeship program, especially how it relates to your recruitment. Do you have a target set for your recruitment process, and what you measured on in terms of, like, you know, your recruitment, your head counts or retention, that kind of stuff?
So is this for the apprentices or for like BAU recruitment?
Both, actually.
So we don't have sorry, just switch the slide. There we go. So in terms of developers, I am targeted. Well, I'm tasked to bring in 3 developers a month. So that could be front end devs, you know, Java devs, etc. But the rest of the recruitment, I don't have targets in that sense. And we're not targeted on time to hire, because certainly in product and technology, when it comes to developer recruitment in particular, things change very quickly in the business. So say, for example, Tim's squad could have the priority one week, but then another squad could lose, I don't know, 2 people.
We never have the priority.
You know. So it changes so much that you can't really have those kind of targets in place. And as well, we're not a massive organisation. So, you know, before I came here, I was at AstraZeneca, and I had 70 management specialist roles, which was more like project management than actual recruitment here. I normally have about 20 roles here, but I'm hands-on with every single one of them. I source every single one of them. I do everything from the beginning I do full end-to-end process of recruitment here. So it's quite fluid in that sense, which is good, because I think sometimes when you have targets around recruitment, it can feel more like you're just trying to get people in. And sometimes you can sacrifice your quality benchmark in that sense. So thankfully we don't have that, and with some roles and some squads that we've had open for over a year, and that's because either that squad's not been the priority, or they've just not found the right person. And it's fantastic that we don't sacrifice that benchmark here, because that would have a massive effect on not just the work culture, etc. So yeah, does that answer your question, Kat?
Yes, it does, because with a lot of the other interviews, we asked about how they measure the performance, and you being the recruitment or the recruitment partner, it's actually quite nice to hear that sometimes it's not that important to measure if you're sacrificing what you really need just to get people in.
Yeah.
Measuring for the sake of measuring is not the way that it should be done. So that's really good to hear that. I guess just really dumb question would be, how do you guys decide when it's really worked?
For the apprentices.
Yeah.
How it's really worked. At the end of the program, we've got four, obviously claim out efficiencies, but we've got 4 individuals that have had a really worthwhile and positive experience, and they are well on their way to becoming developers that are obviously doing great work in the business, but also active and positive contributors to the wider tech scene. It's not just about Auto Trader. And I guess thinking about it in the bigger sense is that in Manchester Digital Apprentice Scheme, that the organisations have come together and worked with each other and developed this cohort of apprentices. So it's not just about us, it's about the wider kind of group of people that are involved in this, and that we will do one next year and the year after and the year after, and that more organisations sign up, and that we slowly start to have an impact on the skills shortage. So I was speaking to Katie from Manchester Digital the other day about what was going to happen at the Skills Festival next year. And I said, well, what a great story that last year we were talking about the skills shortage. This year we have the apprenticeship programme. It will be up and running by then, so that we can be starting to talk about next year, instead of having this, because every time I go to a conference about recruitment in tech, it's always the same stuff with the skills shortage. Some companies are skewing the market because they're paying way over market rates. Well, we're actually doing something about it now. So that I've probably given you about 4 answers there, Cam. Sorry,
This is so good because it links to different parts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's lots of different ways that we could kind of say this has been a success. But I think thinking about the apprentices that are coming in to join us with them, but then it's like a ripple effect, isn't it?
And it's very, I guess, very altruistic in the sense that you're looking at the wider economy, or the local economy, the tech economy, the community for the talent pipeline. But could you spell out for me, what is the company getting out of it?
I think it's more of a long-term thing, because I think short-term is, I think short-term it's going to be a lot of work, quite honestly. When the apprentices join us, they're going to need a massive amount to really kind of get them to be functioning members of squads and tribes. I think that it's long term, we will hopefully have people that will stay with us, beyond the apprenticeship programme. But also, it's also going to help other people in the organisation, not just the people that are directly involved in it, but we want people to become coaches and mentors for the apprenticeship, which helps them with their development, and which people want, because this year we decided not to bring in any graduates. So, our graduates are going to be able to help our apprentices develop and so on and so forth. So I think there's lots of different things that come as benefits to this.
And how do you balance?
Sorry, Cam.
And how do you balance the investment of the human capital of getting apprentices in, and the economic aspects of productivity? So you can hire somebody as an apprentice, cheap enough, train them up, and over time you get the skills and build the talent pipeline, and have that pool of people and resources in the local community that you can tap back into. I think that's what Auto Trader is doing. On the other hand, you can have a more expensive recruit, get them in, do the job, make the money for the company, and it has a very, very quicker return on the investment itself. How should the organization drive that balance? How does it fit back? How does the apprenticeship scheme fit back into the business strategy to what it needs to do, so that they can, adopt the necessary recruitment process and types of recruitments to really work for the company, to get the most out of it?
I mean, we're still recruiting people. We're still hiring people. That will never stop. The tap is always on, so to speak, when it comes to developer recruitment. But I think that there is probably never a great time to do an apprenticeship program. I think you just have to kind of be quite bold and say, we're going to do this. And whilst it is going to be a lot of work, certainly I think, between now and Christmas, it's going to be quite full on. But I think that, we're very strong supporters, I think, of the tech scene in Manchester. And I think it's very important that we as an organisation, do practice the things that we talk about. We do kind of, do the things that we say that we care about. And, it's great to be able to sponsor lots of different meetups, and, you can throw money at lots of different things, but you're not essentially solving the problem. So I think that there is a balance, that, there is going to be a lot of work for those people that are involved in it. But I just think that sometimes you just have to kind of, we're not stopping recruitment anywhere else. It's something we need to do. And we also want to kind of be a positive influence for other employers as well, because if other organisations see us doing this, then more people will do it next year. And then again, we start to chip away at the problem on a much wider scale. And organisations that, I think the smaller organisations are slightly fearful around doing things like this, because the likes of BAE can soak this kind of stuff up because they have so many people. Organisations such as Autotrader that are very lean in that sense. I mean, we're not using any external service to do this. It's all done by the developers, by the product people, by people in L&D and myself. So I think it's removing some of the stigma that maybe surrounds kind of apprenticeship programs. So I just think it's a case, and I think everybody's kind of in that kind of thought. Our is in the fact that we just need to kind of do it.
And it also gives your own people internally in the organisation to step up the skill set they need, maybe to become future leaders.
Absolutely. We look for, that's a massive part of, the more senior roles within development, is the ability to be able to coach and mentor the more junior members of the team. So it's a fantastic thing that I'm getting involved in. But also, it really helps when I'm having conversations with people with regards to BAE recruitment. One of the things that I find when speaking to maybe a senior or a principal developer is that they want an environment in which they have the opportunity to develop, but also the opportunity to help and coach the more junior members of the team. So when I've spoken to a couple of people recently about potentially joining us, and they're like, this is fantastic, you've got an apprenticeship scheme and the developers are running it. So it's not just the people in a classroom that haven't done any coding for like 10 years running a program. This is done by developers that are coding every single day and know what good looks like. So that's a fantastic thing as well. That's just another benefit that's come as a result of this, that it is helping with the attraction of your professional developers.
Yeah, cool. Is there any particular type of organizational structure that you think apprenticeships should really work, or organizations need to consider before bringing in an apprenticeship scheme? You talked about having worked in companies with lots of deep hierarchies or different structure, and it might be a bit flatter within Autotrader. Is there any particular one that you think would work very well?
I think an apprenticeship scheme in theory should be able to work in any kind of organisation. You just need to make sure that you've got the right people or persons wrapped around it. I think the risk in more, like I worked at AstraZeneca before I came here, and they just have like functions that just look after these schemes, and that's all they do, because the risk is that people can get lost in bigger organisations. You know that the primary she's gone to Bali, she's got lots of the system, and she's come to us. She wants that one-on-one, or it's maybe not one-on-one, but she wants the support that an apprenticeship scheme is meant to offer.
Yeah.
But I think that they should be able to work in any organisation. I just think you need to be very, very considered in terms of what that's going to look like. And it's not just kind of grand plans of this is what the programme looks like. You need to think about day to day. You need to think about why they're at that programme, who's going to support them, who the mentors are. Do they have technical mentors, or do they have more of a soft skill kind of mentor?
Yeah.
I think if you put the right kind of thought and detail into it.
And is it important to have a continuation of the same mentors throughout the entire program, do you think, so that for the younger individuals, they always have the same person that they can go back to without, oh, it's Bob this week, and then it's Nathan next week, and Kevin somewhere along the way, that kind of stuff?
I think certainly in the early days you'd want consistency with your mentors, because given that we are there's so many people that the apprentices are going to interact with on a day-to-day basis, that certainly stability in those early days would certainly help them. But I think as they move through the programme and as they develop as individuals, it may be that they maybe look at, working with another mentor, or they might be quite happy with how that relationship's going. I think that's quite a personal relationship between the mentor and the mentee, and I think that it should work between the two and see what kind of fits. I don't think there's any really kind of hard and fast rules around what that should look like, apart from the fact that in the beginning I think there probably should be more consistency to give the apprentices a bit of stability.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Tim, I've cut you off a few times because there's...
No, I think you've actually answered or asked most of the questions I had.
I don't think I've got anything else, do you?
No, that's great. Really good, yeah, really, really useful. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So, did you manage to get the details of the apprentices then?
Yes,
yeah?
so we've spoken to Geordie and to Magda so far. So we've got 2 more. Well, hopefully Thursday, Friday, to confirm them.
Okay, cool. All right then.
Cool. Thanks, Cam.
Nice to meet you, Cam.
Thank you very much. You've definitely given me some new insight that I don't think we've considered previously. So this is brilliant.
Oh, fabulous.
Great. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Bye.